Iron Fist Tournament. Enter the Tekken.
battle till the floor gives out. Come and get the glory, come and write your story, and live it all out there. You're soft as steel and you're sharp as iron, shining like a diamond when the pressure's on. Come and get the glory, come if you dare. You can be number one. Thrill seeker.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Training Mode Network. If you are new to the Training Mode Network, let me get the Tekken music playing. Give me a sec. There we go. Tekken music, yay. Oh, I have to add it. Add the sound source. I was not prepared.
It's all good.
When you find out your goat is washed.
Do it live.
Oh God,
So
I had to show a 19-year-old that video the other day. And explain to him
had to
why
show
it's the
them?
most motivating thing I've ever seen in my life.
If you work in production long enough, you know sometimes you have to get hot and do it live.
They do it live, dude. Yeah, exactly.
Let me make sure, because I can't hear my mic. Okay, I think we're good. Let me know if the mic levels are good, if you can hear everyone in the chat. But good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Training Mode Network. If you are new to the Training Mode Network, we are a beginner and intermediate focused fighting game community, and we run tournaments nearly every night of the week and community events on Saturdays. This is our community event this Saturday. It is a roundtable with several commentators that have decided to join me today. We are just going to be discussing how to get better at commentary, how to practice, what the commentary community needs to push it further, stuff like that. So it's going to be a really fun time, I think. I did not, let me get my notepad open with everything I was working with my questions. There we are. I don't have a thing for next advertisement yet for next Saturday's event, but it's going to be a VOD review workshop with Yurikov for KOF 15, so let me get the sign-up sheet for that. So if you have VODs of you playing KOF 15 and you want to get top player like Yurikov to help you out with what you can do to improve, we will be doing that next Saturday at 12 p.m. PST, 2 p.m. CST, 3 p.m. EST. There you go. And then after that, I think we're having the Pregnant Man versus Rice. I am not on Do Not Disturb. I think we're having the Pregnant Man versus Rice scene emoji team fight in Blaze Blue, which you don't want to know. If you know, you know. It's so stupid. If you know, you know. And that'll
I'll
be
in the out group for this one, okay? You guys can be in the in group.
Oh, hey, it's Blaze Blue. I'm in.
It's really funny. We made a Splatfest picture that was reminiscent of it, from Splatoon, and then it just kind of spiraled from there. But having a what? But that'll be on the 20th, so 4/20. Yeah, I did it on purpose. No, I didn't. It just happened to fall on that day. But that being said, I'm so glad y'all are here, taking a break from Slashback to listen to us. I am joined with my roundtable today with Deadward. You know him. He's done a lot of Blaze Blue commentary for us.
Oh yeah. Hey everyone, my name's Deadward. I've been a commentator in the fighting game community since 2019, and I am honored and excited to be here talking to all of you.
Old ass man.
That's funny. I think he's the youngest one here.
Yeah, no.
True.
The youngest looking one here. Okay.
Okay. Age gets a little bit murky in the FGC because it's not about how old you are, but rather how long you've been around in the scene.
True. You could, Mango and Hungrybox dropped out of high school to play Melee.
Yeah,
That's
they're
crazy.
both definitely objectively old in both of those definitions.
And then I've got Lennox. Hi, Lennox.
Yo, it's good. How y'all doing?
I'm great.
Yeah. My name's Lennox. You've probably seen me commentate some Grand Blue if you like that game. Maybe some Melty Blood, maybe some Blaze Blue. Yeah, I do. I think I've done a couple Training Mode Network Grand Blue beginner brackets back.
Yeah,
in
you
the
did
day.
some when we were still doing vanilla. And then I
Yeah.
remember you like had to take a break because Legend of Zelda 2, Breath of the Wild 2 came out, and you were like, I'm gone.
Yes, that's right. That's what
Yeah.
happened. Yeah. Tears of the Kingdom came out, and I turned off all my electronics other than my Switch for like 3 weeks. Yep. Forgot
Yep,
about that. Wow,
that's what
that's
happened.
crazy.
And I'm also joined by MonkeyBizness. Good evening.
Hey folks, yeah, that's right. I am MonkeyBizness, and this is my first time being involved with anything Training Mode Network. So I am humbled and pleased to be here, and thank you very much for inviting me, Dove. This is an event.
You
pretty
got
much
back to
designed
my
come up in
my
niche.
post, and I was very excited. You're one of my favorite commentators.
Thank you. Yeah,
That's not
being
glazing.
flattered like that. I know this is a bit of a spoiler, but one of our first questions is why we all got into this thing, and really, it's because people like Dub were flattering me since frame one, day one. You know,
So true.
so, yeah.
We've all-
This,
we've
this
all
is
got that
networking
notes.
tutorial, by the way, guys. Take notes.
We do have a question on networking. Yeah.
Excellent. But yeah, I've mostly been involved with whatever 2.5D or 2D game I can most easily find games in, and that's in my local in Buffalo since 2014, and then I lived in Boston 2019 to the end of 2021, and I was involved in that local scene as well there. So that's pretty close to Lennox and Deadward, funny enough.
Yeah,
With a
New York.
big triangle of connections here in the panel today, and this triangle is a very strong shape. Let's, we got some equilateral energy today.
Got to be
Yeah.
one of my
They're strong
favorite
games.
shapes.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm in Austin, so I'm far away from y'all. Austin, Texas.
Well, hey, thanks for converting the time zone to your central over there, and coordinating us all even from a different time zone. Congrats on that.
It's hard. It's hard. I use
Being
that. I
producer
use
is
that
hard.
website where it gives you like a timestamp that like changes with the time zone your Discord is set in, and people so often will be like, "That's in this time zone, right?" I'm like, "Y'all, it's in the time zone you see." I have to be like, "No, that is just in the time zone you live in."
You're overthinking.
I'm a big
Yeah.
fan, of writing the exact lettering for each time zone for like any possible person I could be communicating with, and instead of using anything universal, because
Yeah.
more and more events are being run online remotely. EVA Japan, a big example. The English commentary for that is based in Cali, and they're commentating something 16 hours ahead in Japan.
That's
So,
crazy.
you
I didn't
know,
know they were doing
yeah.
that.
So
They're
we're
up at
on a
like
very
what,
small
like 1
scale.
a.m. to do that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. It's an energy drink operation run out of somebody's basement, basically. And we're basically doing that on our own scale today for specifically the task of discussing commentary and arriving at some wisdom. I'm super excited. So,
Me as well. Okay, so we'll get started. Lennox just came back. Cool. So to start out with, the very first question I wanted to ask was what attracted every single one of you, and you can, just go around the circle or say whatever, chime in when you can, just give everyone time to talk. What attracted you to commentary, and what do you wish you had known when you started out?
just to add some order, how about we do reverse chronological order? Let's establish this, okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
you want to start it out?
Yeah, well,
Perfect.
reverse chronological. All right. This is 2014. The reason that I enter my local, which is being played at a golf dome in a suburb of Buffalo, New York, is because I see that they have a stream that is up just for casuals. Like Tekken Tag 2 is being played, Street Fighter 4 on the 360, of course. Times were different for those of you that weren't there. Times were different.
Tekken Tag 2. You've heard a lot about that recently with the people who played it saying Tekken 8 kind of as volatile as Tag 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I experienced maybe a little bit of that volatility that first day at locals that I went, basically because the stream with 2 commentators on it, even for casuals, was taking the casuals or like the dollar tournaments that were being run seriously and commentating them like they meant something. And those 2 people that were on the stream, when I got to the local with my friend and my friend's dad who drove us, the 2 people that were commentating were immediately like at the front door of this golf dome the local was being played at. They were on their way to a restaurant, and I had no idea where this fighting game room was at this venue, but I recognized the 2 dudes, and so I was like, yo, fighting games? And immediately, my friend No One Man and Dan Geef led me into the venue, and I was like absolutely amazed at the scale of the place, just because like 10 different fighting games, including Melee, because Smash and fighting games used to run on the same place on the same days of the week back then, all over the country. Things were way different. I mean,
Oh yeah, that's
but
crazy.
right away, I was even that first day I was camping the commentary setup, which was like a snowball microphone and 2 people with questionable shrimping posture leaning towards it into a laptop stream for Tekken Tag 2. And I had already done a lot of like public speaking for high school and like film class and whatnot. I liked using my voice, kind of imagining writing lines for the scenes that play out throughout matches and rounds. And as you get to know the people in your scene, they become characters that you learn how to embellish. And I find it so funny that to this day, I commentate my own locals with the lowest stream viewers compared to anything else. I feel even still that I commentate my locals better than anything major that I've ever done. But wanting to embellish
I feel that, bro.
to the fullest extent is definitely what brought me in 2014, and that come up throughout the years. I mean, as I got better at the games, I started to feel like I had more authority in talking about them as well, and that became a positive feedback loop because other people were telling me that they were learning from the commentary and things that I was saying too. And the commentary style really just developed from the conversations my friends and I would have while watching our friends play. And I had just spent so much time around the games that they became a part of me, to the extent that my language changed. You know, I opened up our own call today with like a joke about time being measured in frames or something. I mean, I think we've all observed how our language has changed as a result of our time spent in the scene commentating. But yeah, that's how I got started, just camping the local setup and then the local regional majors. And then 2019, probably DTN was my first big event. I saw too that one of the things we were asking was what we wish we had known when starting out as a part of this question.
Mm-hmm.
And I really do wish I had known that the entire landscape of the scene would change dramatically in my own time in it. And I did start to become aware of that and start documenting locals and kind of making a scribe or archivist of myself with a video. Made a little documentary about my local scene that I worked on throughout my last year of college, and that was about the clash or schism that I felt I was observing between esports and grassroots FGC at the time that that conflict was happening. Maybe some of us were around for that time, maybe not. But there was a whole before times that I saw was changing that I was really interested in. I do wish I had started doing that sooner, because entire venues and locals and like even people that I remember from previous places that the scenes I've been a part of have lost to business or to time. I really do miss a lot of them, and I wish I had more footage and stuff even still. Also, yeah, be prepared for major logistical changes to the world that may change the way you commentate or the events you commentate too. I guess I was ready for 2020 and the pandemic and commentary shifting online, but we all either had to change our style in response to most commentary shifting online, or just adapt to the changes of everybody's style changing at the same time together. Turns got longer because we are laggier in online commentary, and so people will spend a longer time with what I call the baton, making their comment. I've been holding it for a very long time now, I understand. But I will be happy to pass it all along now with that answer.
Cool. So I probably am the I might be the oldest one here, but I think I might be the quote unquote youngest one to the FGC based on what I'm hearing. I didn't start commentating until well into 2020. I got to start in that period of chaos, unfortunately or fortunately. But yeah, I don't know. So the big thing that got me here in the first place was Counter-Strike, of all things. I used to watch so much Counter-Strike in college and after college, and I really really enjoyed some of the commentators there. Anders and Semler, I think, were like two of my early favorites. But who was it? It was James Bardoff, I think, like kind of became my favorite along the way. And there was definitely a period where I'm like, man, I just want to be James Bardoff. I just want to commentate Counter-Strike because this game's sick and I'm not good enough to play it. So there's a slight narcissistic I guess element to me being attracted to this because it was that need to like be involved, I guess. But obviously the understanding that like I'm not good enough to like consistently make these top 8s. You feel me? Like I've gotten better at these games. I'm happy with my skill level in a lot of the games that I've played in my time here. But that's not a particular talent that I possess is consistent top 8s, unfortunately. Yeah, so man, if I could tell myself one thing when I was starting out, it would be just to shut up sometimes. It's all right to just not talk. Let your co-commentator talk. It's fine. You don't have to try to make every single moment exciting. I don't know. There's so much stuff I wish I knew when I was starting out, but that would probably be the big one. When I was starting, like I just wanted everybody to be excited as I was, like when I got to watch some of these hype sets. You know what I'm saying? And that's, I don't know. You got to balance that a little bit. That's not. You can't be at 11 on the dial 100% of the time. That doesn't work.
Yeah, like even Tasty Steve isn't punching Sajam in the arm all the time for every set, you know?
Every single second, but he could. Don't
But
let
he
anyone-
could.
You could
No,
be.
he wouldn't though.
You
He
could be
wouldn't, like-
Tasty Steve.
The Steve my arm moment is in response to the sudden realization that now is indeed the moment that he is going to break your arm.
Yes, yes. But like he built up to that. Like he's not doing that the whole time. You're right. Like he built that moment, and like that's like say what you will about Tasty Steve. I love watching Tasty Steve because like that man knows how to work the mic. You know what I'm saying? Like it's I don't know. There's something special there. But anyway, sorry. That's all I got. Deadward, you are up, my friend.
All right. I'd say a weird way to start this off is I've always felt like I've been a very good audience member for fighting games. I get very invested and I'm like very excited when I'm in the crowd. Even like till now, like I'll like stand up after like Ray the Warrior winning Frosty Faustings and being like, I'm gonna pass out.
That
Like,
was the
I
most
can't keep
hype. That was
screaming.
so hype.
Yeah, I'm like this. I stood up and I was like, "This is it. This is my last moment. I'm done." So I'd say that was like one of the big things, and unfortunately, that was mainly because I was really into Melee in high school. And if you know anything about like 2015, 2016 Melee, like the top player worship is a little bit out of control in that community. And I also
They're
brought
called
that
gods.
like
Don't
when I
call them
was
top
starting.
players. Those are
Exile.
gods.
Yeah, exactly. There's like a big reverence,
respectful.
and like even friends that I've talked to who have like gotten out of Melee as well have also been like, yeah, like playing against Leffen and like casuals was like the most exciting thing that like happened to me in Melee. I'm like, that's crazy.
Did you
'Cause
win?
it's not like that at all, really, in the fighting game community. I feel like it's
Yeah.
become like that a little bit more, but
Is it really that exciting to get four-stocked so convincingly?
it's not. But it felt big, and that I think that like in a weird way kind of helped me because it was like whenever I tuned into a Melee stream, I was like, this is like if my favorite player loses, I'm gonna feel terrible for the rest of the day. So that was a big thing for me. I got into fighting games after watching CEO 2017, I want to say. This is the one where Punk puts on the hats and like takes them off when he loses and puts them back on when he wins. That's also
Yeah,
the
that's
Exard.
the Zangief Snake Eyes year. A great year for E CEO.
Oh. It was also, I want to say it was like Kazunoko, Kizzy K, Kid Viper, top 3 for Exard. And that's when I got into Exard.
That was a great time.
So, started
Yeah.
university. Started
But
university.
that was also, I think, I don't know if you watched it. I think that was the year of the Beta Dude versus SKD set.
No, I didn't. I haven't seen
It has to be the same. I think that's the same year because that's like a legend set for Blaze Blue.
I did not catch. I only caught Exard in Street Fighter V when I
Well,
watched.
no, I'm just saying like that was also the same year that this legend set for Blaze Blue happened.
Don't God.
And that was in like pools at like 10 a.m. It's crazy when that kind of stuff can happen.
The realest sets.
So that's kind of like when I was like, oh, I want to play fighting games. And also around this time, I had I'd already been into like performing and kind of like public speaking and things like that, and thought that I was good at them. But I also like got really into improv comedy and stand-up around the same time.
You're a good friend of mine, I'm sorry.
I know. I hate to admit it. But, I was talking more than anything, and I was also, trying to learn Exard, was like starting going to TSB at the same time, and a lot of it was like I'm looking at frame data all the time. I'm like going out to New York City just to like get my ass beat by Manny and Marlin Pie every single weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So like a lot of it is just like me looking at frame data because I'm not getting to play that much. So I'm like reading like all these matchup guides and whatnot, and eventually it hits the point where I'm like, I'm doing all this public speaking in like my personal time and like my other hobbies, and I know a lot about Exard at this point. Like, why am I not commentating it? And I think I was just scared of it, and it took me a while. I think the impetus is that I was wheeling a setup at Defend the North, and I was just cooking everyone. And someone was like, does anyone know how to commentate BB Tag? Anyone? Please, we need one person for BB Tag. And I'm like, oh, I know BB Tag. And I got on the mic there, and it was a great time. To BB Tag and Exard afterwards. And after that was like kind of like the leap of faith I needed before I was like hooked.
So I just was really curious, who were you commentating with when you were hoisted up into the commentary world by a desperate producer calling out your name?
That's like everybody's dream to start, by the way. I love that you live that.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
That's
who
sick.
I don't remember who the co-com was for the BB Tag. So I maybe it's uploaded somewhere. I feel like I looked for it in like preparation for this, and I couldn't find it. But it was the production who was asking for assistance. And I was just like, let's go. I'll commentate some BB Tag.
I forgot that BB Tag was the first game you ever commentated.
Yeah,
I remember you telling me that.
That was, and then like it's transitioned to being like a lot more Exard. Also, just like one thing that I also kind of regret is that I did not take a pandemic commentary seriously really at all. I was like, I don't have a good microphone. I don't have a good like webcam. I just started like a few months ago. Like this isn't like a big thing in my life yet. So like, I'm not going to try to like put all this money and like extra effort to doing like net play commentary. Like, no, thank you. And I think that kind of held me back in a lot of ways, especially coming out of the pandemic where my resume was a lot smaller than it had been, or it could have been. So I'd say that's the one thing that I regret, in addition to just being like afraid of starting out, even when I knew that it was going to be something that would appeal to me and that I would be good at.
That reminds me of the experience. I that just made me want to say too that like I also kind of was a little bit bummed out going into the pandemic commentary because I felt like I was on something kind of hot in 2019 with MK11 in particular.
Mm-hmm.
And then, world basically ended. Like, to me, the pandemic really started it was specifically the day that my brother Ludi was on his way to the Last Chance qualifier for MK11 in Chicago. And while he's on the bus for 11 and a half hours, I have to send him the text that I just read the tweet that Warner Brothers was canceling the LCQ and that the world match is going to be posed off 16.
That sucks.
Yeah. It sucked for him, but it was the beginning of a new era for the NRS scene and for all of us commentators too. Basically, it became a networking opportunity to anyone who was willing to subject themselves to what could possibly be interpreted as like isolation or back problems from holding down an online commentary for 3 hours. Like if you had the stamina, that was an opportunity to regularly get yourself experience watching matches, introducing yourself to the new generation of TOs in production that were carrying the show and passing the torch along while everything else was gone. So I jumped on it pretty quick, but then I thought I could graduate from it and then only do offline once I started doing majors, and that has not turned out to be the case. And this might come back up later in future questions, but really now I think the community is quite hybridized between online and offline commentary, but
Yeah.
it is, I find, harder to get offline opportunities if you don't keep up online.
Yeah.
Lennox, would you like to say anything about like starting in the pandemic at all? Or like how that
yeah.
Were you like excited to do it? Were you like, let's go? Now's the
Yo.
time.
Lennox, this reminds me too that your
Yeah.
tank top, family red, it was the family barbecue
Family
2020 tank
quarantine,
top.
yeah.
Family quarantine. So you're like embracing the pandemic commentary thing, right?
Yes,
Like,
that's part of it. So I'm actually really glad you
Yeah.
brought that up. That is not my tank top.
what?
Yeah. So I've showed a couple people this, but next time you see me when I'm wearing it, I'll show you. Right on the bottom, like right on the lip, you can't see it when I'm sitting down, or like if the shirt's folded up even a little bit, little name tag that says Dustin down there. My homie gave that to me.
Dormancy, Dustin.
No. That's the other thing.
What?
The other Dustin that lives up here. It's the other Dustin that we play fighting games with. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
I didn't know it was the most
he-
popular name in New England.
I didn't either until I started playing fighting games. It was crazy.
Crazy.
We were just gaming at his house one day, playing some Grand Blue or Street Fighters. I don't remember what it was, but he's like, "Hey, you wear tank tops, right? Do you want this? Like, this is a family thing, but like, I'm never gonna wear this, dude. Like, you want it?" I'm like, "Sure, I'll take it." And it was this tank top. So, as a joke, I think I wore that to Balance Patch a couple times, and I would always send Dusty picture of like me and Dormancy about to hop on for something at Balance Patch and be like, "Hey, check what I'm wearing, homie." To the point where it just became a joke where now like every major I go to, like whatever like the highest spot commentary I get. So like if I get a top 8, like you best believe I'm wearing that darn top 8.
Yeah, 100% Lennox. And I've always been reading it metatextually because when you put that on and it's Family Quarantine 2020, I think FGC is family. And what do you know?
Yeah, hell
FGC guy
yeah.
gave it to you. FGC is family.
Yeah,
We've been
exactly.
we've been in this quarantine. We're out of it, kind of, but also, it's about the. I feel you. I like it.
Yeah,
Anyway.
it's adopted many meanings to the point where like I don't really like sharing like the full story with people because like there's so many different ways you can interpret it, and like the one common thing is like most people can vibe with it, but it's all I don't know. I'm down with what you're saying. I don't think I'm navigating that as well, but I think I'm on the same wavelength as you. Yeah.
I didn't mean to make it only about the tank top.
No, that's okay. It was bound to come up. That's become a key part of my identity for better or for worse. So here we are. I don't know. Pandemic stuff was kind of weird for me at first because I got a taste of offline at Balance Patch right before things really shut down, and I was driving down like every Friday. I think it was right around Strive came out, and I was just trying to get some Strive reps because I'm like I'm trying to take this seriously. Or Dragon Ball actually was really the main focus, but that was like played sometimes.
It's crazy how that game fell off, by the way.
Oh man, and like there's still like a subset of people that really love it, and it's I don't know, it's still there.
Still hot in
You
New
wanna play
England,
it? Yeah, exactly. Like
England
there's still
Budokai?
cats playing.
Well, it was the first game I ever played, and
Same,
but
yeah.
there was like not a scene for it. All the people who played Dragon Ball in my area, we had to do house meetups because like no one would play it at the arcade. They didn't even have all the DLC at the arcade.
I've definitely hosted for that.
Yeah.
Cats. Yeah.
You had an arcade?
Yeah, there's
yeah.
a really good Japanese style arcade here called UFO that
Wow.
I go to. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh right, sorry. We were talking about pandemic stuff. Yeah. So coming out of that, like this is something I wish I did better, but like there was a couple like key relationships that I helped build with just like through working offline stuff, and now it's like okay, these folks will reach out every once in a while if something's free, and sometimes I can do it, and more often than not I'm busy because I got a lot going on, which is good and bad sometimes. It's I don't know. I still wish I had that like bigger base of I guess like offline networking going into that. but I don't feel like it was super hindering either, if that makes sense.
Okay, well, thank you for all those all the interesting starting stories, the origin stories. So my next question is, so obviously the FGC, you can't have it without the C. So how has the community helped you all grow as a commentator, and what were the main resources that helped you within the community that helped you become the commentator you are now?
So this is bound to get pretty emotional. I mean, let's be real.
Oh, hell yeah.
The commentator's chair is a seat that is slid into upon invitation. We are the most luxurious guests at the entire event, no matter what the event is. I mean, it is an incredible opportunity that so many other community workforces come together to make happen. And so the community not only helps us grow, but is the reason we can exist at all. There's nothing to commentate without amazing players or even mediocre players who happen to enter, or producers, TOs, bracket runners, people making it happen. So at a fundamental level, that has been huge for me for 10 years at every level of the operation. The FGC used to be more loosely organized along forums and Facebook groups before the Discordification of information and social mediaization. Before things got a lot more algorithmic around here, it was a lot more like forum-y. And so all of the local TOs in my region that were just putting information out there, the original person who put me onto the fact that there was a scene in Buffalo was a Test Your Might forum guy from Ohio named Friction. And so even like there were people who were just better connected than me, who saw that I loved the games that I was playing online, even as like a little kid. Well, not a little kid, but as a teenager, let's say, and made sure that I had a path to connect with more people that could put me on a path to greater fulfillment and I guess some occasional enlightenment, as we find sometimes in the fighting game community at the end of an amazing set, or while we're looking out our window over the major city that we get to visit at whatever major we attend. So yeah, community making it happen. I can't stress enough how the feeling of gratitude overwhelms me from the moment I sit down in a chair to commentate to the moment I get up. And it's like a single dap up with the producers is never enough for me to really express it, but pretty much we just dap them up and go, and then the event continues. But in terms of like community resources, how about those people that fill out Wikipedias and just make information findable? I've always been
Shout out to Toito.
Yeah, Toito does it for BB and that old dust loop on BB. I mean, the Street Fighter equivalent, supercombo.gg, SRK forums back in the day, because without reference material, I have lesser ways to make myself distinct as the hyper-analytical commentator. I have less tools to empower myself, to cast light on future possible interactions and matchups, which is something that I really try to do. While a lot of commentary right now, I think, does an excellent job of describing what's there on the screen in a state of active summary. What's often missed in the overly obsessive and vocal summary, I think, is like the things that aren't happening. So as I've developed more, I've tried to, I know it sounds counterproductive to commentate about things that aren't on the screen, but with a refined enough understanding and a voice that listeners trust, you can eventually have your audience feel like they're predicting things and seeing the fruits of their listening labor be born in the end of a match or in a critical moment in a set. And when I do that right, I feel, quite frankly, like God. So, yeah. Thank you to those people who fill out information. I love textual information, and it's my job to make that textual information auditory and listenable and consumable and digestible, and I try to do that. I don't try to overwhelm people with that information. I don't try to wield it like a club. I try to wield it like a pen, you know, same as we try to write or perform anything else. So yeah.
And that's not easy, just for the record, in case you any of y'all out there doubt that. I still very
Yeah.
much struggle with that.
Right. It's a very fine balance, and if you start making predictions that don't prove to be playing out and you lose your confidence, you might re-enter a state of over summary and then miss an opportunity. Yeah, like there are very critical moments, I think, as a commentator when all you can actually do is watch. And if you know what the moments you have to watch for are, you are less likely to find yourself talking about something that is suddenly less relevant due to something that occurred. Leaning into a conversational style with a co-commentator is really helpful for this. I love getting in a rhythm where we're taking like quicker turns. And usually, I've never been like frustrated with a commentator at a major. Actually, of course, like adaptation is the greatest challenge, but that's true for the players too. You know, that's our task as people working professionally, trying to be professional in the scene. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Honestly, you kind of hit us with the bulk of it right there. Like the community kind of is everything, dude. Like I
Right.
100% agree with that. Like there's the only reason I had opportunities to do anything at all was because we had a really fleshed out community of Balance Patch, like Lucky D, Thantis, and like a ton of the other people that put in work there. Like did a really good job of fostering like just a solid place for people to come together, and a really approachable format for starting commentary. Like if you talk to Dan and say like, hey, I want to try this, he'll have some questions for you, but like chances are he's going to give you a shot at least, you know what I mean? And that's the fact that I had that opportunity at all kind of makes me feel like I found like a hidden gem, kind of, you know what I mean? Even though like we could all just go there. Yeah, it's I don't know. Like I feel lucky for having found this, but like it's been right there the whole time. Just there's in pretty much every scene you're gonna find like good people that just care about the other people around them. that's at its core, like that's community, kind of in a nutshell. And like online, we've had those things too. Like I know one of my earliest memories of like vanilla Grand Blue was watching actually Monkey and Dormancy commentate Grand Blue on Casa. What was it? Casa Wednesdays?
Yeah. We did Wednesday Street Fighter and Grand Blue at the same time.
Yep.
The craziest thing about Casa, if you don't mind me interjecting here.
No, please do. Yeah.
Craziest thing about Casa was our commentary staff ran so deep because commentators got so bored during that quick drought after everything shut down. So it's either commentators were bored or we were all like so excited by the opportunity to commentate online, because we were running 2-hour blocks for online events with people first doing pairs of pools and then top 8 completely separate pair of commentators.
That's right.
Which was luxurious. I'm sorry to say this isn't supposed to be framed as some kind of call out, but online commentary now is typically a 4.5-hour shift, probably not paid, in your living room, hoping that people are not like hating whatever you're saying, right? Like when you don't feel the energy of the event, it's on you to create it, and it takes a lot of cans of seltzer, as Lennox can attest to maintain that 4.5-hour online energy that most online events require.
I definitely started overdoing it at first, and I took events for gear for the online local West Coast time, so it doesn't start till 9 p.m. my time. I distinctly remember a night where I passed out during grand finals, straight up. I just fell asleep. I was so embarrassed. I felt so bad. I'm like, well, I'm really glad you're not paying me for this, because I just dropped the ball right there.
It wouldn't matter as much if we were doing the commentary mosh pit we used to do at Casa, where we'd have 6 people somehow commentating together, and somehow, we're running this through Discord, right? It's not like the most advanced technology in the world. Most, like 99% of online events run through Discord. but we still managed to not talk over to each other too badly, as we just kind of had like these unspoken rules about taking turns. And, like it kind of
It
worked
worked really well.
I don't know how. It will never be attempted again, is what I'm worried about. Anyway.
Yeah, so we talk about it every once in a while because I used to love like watching those. Those were a ton of fun. And I think Brad's brought it up a couple times, but there's no there have
People are a
been
little
no
afraid of
concrete
it now.
plans. Yeah, it's a scary prospect.
Yeah. Like what if we can't actually do this anymore?
Yeah,
What if we all
yeah.
forgot?
What if that was literally a bottle moment and no one will nail us again? I don't know. I think so. Like you brought up God, what was it? Tokyo, Jesus,
Tokyo
Evo
Game
Japan. Yeah, Evo
Oh,
Japan earlier. And the English commentary that
Oh, yeah.
happens on the West Coast. And that was like low key one of my favorite events to watch last year. Was just. Who was it? Yipes, Tasty Steve, and Sajam are just sitting there talking about the game. And they're just clearly just having a good time. Like at one point, you just hear Yipes get up and say, "Hey, I'm getting a drink. What do you guys want?" Like it had very intimate vibes. Yeah. But like,
right?
Yeah. It's that's the kind of stuff that has me hopeful for the future in terms of like, I guess the esportsification you could say that gets talked about every once in a while. That there's still room for like that like high level production value with like that kind of like grassroots stuff.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Like there has to be a responsible way to do that, and I think if people find that, like there's some real potential there.
Yeah, he was a professional about it because he said he's going to get the drink, but it's not like he opened the drink on the mic. You know what I mean?
He muted himself for that. Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of
Even
which,
above board.
if you heard me forget to mute myself while I was having a coughing fit earlier, apologies.
Actually, I didn't hear that at all. Don't worry.
Good, because I was worried. I missed the mute button there. Yeah,
Dude, like every time I'm on commentary, I open up a drink. I'm not on commentary, but I'm just running the event and I forget to mute myself. I open up a drink and the people on the mic will be like, "Bro, you just opened a cold one?"
Alcoholic Dove allegations.
It's just a
I'm
Monster Energy Mango Loco.
I'm preparing for like a net play TriCast coming up, and I genuinely I don't know how it's supposed to work, because it's like I feel like with an in-person TriCast at least you can like read people's body language of when they want to speak, and on net play it's like you can't see the body language, but it's just two people. Like you're generally just like going back and forth, and if I leave like a long pause, like Lennox will know, oh, Deadward's not talking, like I can jump in here if I have something to say. But like Monkey, what was the code that you guys were using? Like how would you know when to back off in like a net play environment there? Because for me it's just like I feel like we're all just gonna be firing at one another the whole time.
So maybe you've become exposed in your time in the scene to the Korean player Laugh's three-way triangular fighting game player theory that every player is made up of heart, body, and mind. And if you are to be a strong commentator for the mosh pit orientation, which is 3+ commentators simultaneous, I think you have to invest wholly in your heart and trust your intuition.
Yeah, well, I made a document recently that was like everything you need to know to run a guide to running tournaments online, and there was the part where it talked to commentary. It was like, well, these are the commentary formats. You can do like solo commentary. You can do, which I actually love solo commentary. I do it for my the tournament I run on Sunday mornings.
You learn a lot doing solo. You learn a lot. Honestly.
You do, and so like I go to commentate with someone else, and I'm like, it's a different way you have to talk about the game and structure your thoughts. But then I talked about the group commentary, and I was just like, I don't really recommend this.
You learn some stuff doing it. You might not have the most fun doing it, but it's I don't know. I think it's worth trying at least at some point.
And I think in the commentator's journey, it becomes a task out of essentiality at some point, whether it's because at the local, literally nobody else can be found to do the task that you are just holding down, or because somebody's got a sudden bathroom break and it's the early morning of EVO 2018 and you're trying to commentate some DBFZ and your co-com, went out on Vegas the evening before, ate late, didn't wake up early, didn't get no routine done in the morning, you know? And so sometimes you end up solo, even at a high-level professional event. You got to be ready.
Crazy.
And honestly, for that kind of commentary, it's hard to find exposure for it now. You have to be like seeking out locals or something, or looking at old footage. But if you're looking for material with regard to solo, that is the mode that the play-by-play commentator is in for sports at almost all times. And they present questions and they end their sentences with either commas or semicolons at key moments where they can choose to adapt and change what they're saying in response to what they suddenly see. Learning that timing and changing your expectations for that timing in accordance with what specific title you are commentating is the ultimate task of the enduring commentator, who has to try to, like, I find that I start from zero. I don't know how to commentate any game on release, and I refuse to, honestly. If I'm going to take it seriously, I have to become a player first. I have to live in the system. I have to be as oppressed as whatever everybody is complaining about in whatever game. I always feel almost like a compulsion. I don't know if it's like clinging to my competitive youth or something. I know by our conversations, I have been in the scene the longest. I'm the oldest in that respect. I refuse to not be a player at first. That is getting harder and harder as as time passes and more my time gets taken by different life responsibilities. But for that reason, I think I'm mostly focusing on Street Fighter now, where I used to think I was able to do this for 2 or even 3 games at a time. It's going to be probably commentating 2, playing 1 for me for the foreseeable future. But I really used to triple and quadruple dip, hold up brackets. It was a great time.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, start from zero every game, I think. Don't, because every game has different timing and pacing. Strive is so fast. Can you imagine going from Exert to Strive and thinking it's going to be a similar task at all? Have you guys both done Exert and Strive? Right.
I mean, I tried to
so
do
different.
both and just couldn't swing it.
Strive,
Yeah,
I feel like, is faster because the hits lead to a worse situation than
Meanwhile, in Exert, the combo being longer just gives you an entirely larger amount of time to possibly lend credence to what may come next. You can describe the choices for Oki that are coming. You can describe where the combo is going to land based upon what hit you see. You know, the more you know, the better. But meanwhile, Strive, like, you kind of have to ignore, like, the combo is 4 hits. It's Soul Bad Guy doing /, 5H, Bandit Revolver, and into, like, suddenly the Oki situation's in the corner, tension is on the screen. All these resources are very suddenly important, and you cannot waste any time going like during a combo that's only 4 hits. Like, forget the rhythm and try and focus on the situation at hand, I think. Strive was really doomed, I think, often by the fact that people's memories of their experience playing the game seem to center around round start, where there's no meter and the game is less interesting by default. But meter makes that game so interesting. I just wanted to say that.
Can I say before Deadward takes over, I'm going to butt in. Okay. I do agree. That is a really great idea about Strive, because when you get meter in Strive, it's immediately a million things happening at once, and you get meter so quickly in that game. That I do agree. It's a much more interesting game when you have meter.
Yeah, and it's also equally interesting when one player has meter, the other doesn't. But we all talk about, like, round start like it's the end of the world, you know. I took so many Nago 5Ks and Shizuruyukis for a year, and I still was challenging it.
I was about to say, it is kind of the end of the world against Nago. Yeah. Okay, go on, Deadward.
Oh, I just thought that was interesting, because I feel like all the games that I commentate now have, like, pretty long combo structure duration-wise, and that my style has, like, adapted to fit that a lot. Like, I feel like a lot of my play-by-play will be, like, a little bit long. Like, I'll generally do hit situation, resources, and, like, at that point, it's, like, ended. So it'll be like, oh, we saw the walk back there, creating the 6P counter hit, you know, gonna take him to the corner. And Burst is available at this point, so we'll have to play on Gold Burst. Let's see what's gonna like something like that. Where with Strive, like again, you far slash 5H Bandit Revolver, like you're just like, well, here we go. Here we go. Is it let's get into it. What's about to
you gotta
happen?
trust your audience, right? Because they know it's Strive. They know you don't have time to give the articulation, but you have to get like very impressionistic strokes vocally. I like Strive. It's like watercolor against the wall, you know, for your commentary. Or like Exerd, you have time to write a haiku like Slayer or something. Like, but
that's
you
all.
really
Like I've
don't
been trying to use like more like feeling words for like big events where it's like players aren't gonna know what like 6C counter hit is, but it may be like, oh, getting hit by that feels like I want to quit the game. Like I wish there was a surrender button. Like that's a good way of like translating something is like player experiences, like what you're feeling when something happens. And I feel like you just gotta do that all the time with Strive. Like, this sucks, this is bad. Like, oh my gosh, I don't want to get hit by that, but here we go. What's the mix up? Like,
yes. Lend credence to your own emotional experience and your relatability, and just use it in the commentary. Like, sure, you don't want to sound biased, but if you balance that with your co-commentator playing in their head as the other player, it can be a lot of fun. Because, you know, people get blown out sometimes, and a blowout doesn't have to be a tragedy. It can be fun. I love yipes on a blowout.
Yeah.
I think the current generation, myself included, we have a lot to learn when it comes to how to make a 3-0 exciting. A 3-0, and I'm talking 3-0 6 rounds straight. And like that happens. That's most tournament matches. Because round one is kind of rough.
Yeah, it's rough to commentate pools. I whenever I watch pools commentary, I actually watched some. I was watching some old Exard footage because you've recently picked up a new main, and Sammy Fish, who's coming back to commentary, a good friend of mine. I
saw him at Frosty.
He's such a nice guy. I love him so much. He was commentating with Raph, and I was like, wait, I know these people, and he did a great job as an analytical side, like the way a Yipes wouldn't do it, as an analytical side to making a 3-0 exciting, because they were doing like some like 10 a.m. pool, and it was really interesting. I think commentating that is one of the hardest things you can commentate. Like, everyone trains for knowing exactly what to say when they're commentating the best players in the world, but what happens when you're commentating two people who don't know what they're doing?
That's why you gotta go commentate your locals.
Yeah!
100%, yeah.
Yep.
I feel
commentate
like
your locals and like take pools as a privilege as well. Don't be bummed you didn't get top 8 because the producer is probably making our schedules for majors in like 2 hours, 48 hours before the event. Like I don't work in that, and this is not like a condemnation, but they are so stressed. Probably they are micromanaging so many people and directing, and like the fact that sometimes in the pool you can be the one to like lend predictions for what will happen later in the course of a top 8, and if you're armed with knowledge and like in-game insight from that maybe comes from competitive experience, maybe not, but if you're armed with that and you can point out why a player is winning truly and make people understand it while it's happening, you are in a good position. You should feel great about that. That means you're probably at the peak of your game right now, because not many people can do that reliably. And some, you know, where we're mostly at is for certain characters that we may have expertise in, we can do that more reliably. If we have a homie that plays a character we see or play against all the time, we might be able to do that a little bit more. I think like there are some recipes that simply cannot be contested. Like, this is straight up praise for my homie Sajam. What better research is there than going and hitting master with every character in Street Fighter 6 and doing match analysis 24/7, and, you know, trying to be a part of all of the big events and putting people's eyes on the best players of those characters. That is rigor that will always make you a fantastic commentator. I watch a lot, but I certainly don't play the game with every character to that extent. But shoot, that will always work, I think.
I think he talks about that in a video too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but like that's a big part of his philosophy is like it will never be a bad thing to learn more. Like that will never be a detriment to you. That will always be good. That will always help you. So like why not just try to learn as much as you can?
Yeah, definitely. Especially for those pools matches.
Dude, and there's hidden gems
Yeah.
in pools sometimes too. That's the
Totally.
nice part, right? Like you get a couple like maybe mid-level players, but they're like equal enough in skill where you get to watch one of them like work through something, like learn about a situation and like get a comeback or something like that. Like there's potential in there too. It's still very good training grounds. I definitely like to at least one pools round for every major I go to.
And pools too, you can see the biggest pop-offs ever.
Yes,
Are
those
way
are-
bigger.
yeah.
And so lending your voice to that moment and not diminishing it, but rather embellishing it, making it the biggest thing that it can be, will make that moment so much more shareable and sendable for that player that pops off on stage, or for that player that just wants to send the video to their friends or family or what have you. I really do take it seriously, and I have a lot of fun with my pools assignments. Team games can have off-meta teams in pools as well. I all of you have done team games too.
I have not.
And
Yes,
But
because I did BB tag. That was a
I see.
while ago.
those kind of team games. I'm sorry. Yes. Wait,
Yeah.
you mean like what do you mean, Monkey? Like Counter-Strike, League of
versus.
Legends?
Sorry, no, I mean versus fighters.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
like
I'm sorry.
like you'll see a lot of the same teams in like BB Tag top 8, for instance, but like people like to play their favorites, so you'll see like weird, kind of like pet picks a lot in pools for
Weird
those.
and mildly successful, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're there for a reason.
I love some mild success, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I do-
this kind of works.
Yep.
That
Yeah,
is kind
MK1
of like
is having a lot of that for me right now, actually. I love MK1 pools. It's my favorite
that's
pools
right.
game to
Yeah,
watch.
you're doing the Mortal Kombat thing too. Yeah.
Yeah, that game came out of nowhere as a versus game. What the heck?
I wasn't ready for that, but good for the MK community.
Mhm. Did you know that's technically only our second question we've got?
Oh no.
Oh man.
Crazy.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
let
know.
me. I can put a bow on this one. So I'm thinking like
please.
the conundrum of like it does feel like top 8 is generally the easiest block to like prepare for and like succeed in, just because all the matches are going to be close. They're going to be interesting. You should know all the players who are like likely to top 8 a major, and if you don't, like it shouldn't be too hard to like find out things about them. And going back to our question, community help. Big shout out to like production uploading videos of like the top 8s, all the pools and whatnot. It not only helps commentators with like when you have to assemble your reel and like find your highlights and things like that and things you want to share, but also like just being able to research like the most recent major for whatever game you're commentating next can be super, super helpful. Like just being able to like access the narrative of like the last Blaze Blue top 8, Guilty Gear top 8, whatever, and just see like, oh, what narratives were they using? Like, oh, I haven't seen this player play that much. Like, let's get a read of their play style just by like watching them in a top 8. Super, super helpful to have those resources available. And yeah, I mean, I think pools and also top 32 are like where you get really tested, because that's where you need to know the most characters, you need to know the most community members, and also where you're getting a lot of blowout matches and you have to kind of figure out like what's your angle to make it not only interesting to the viewers but also not like you, because being on stream is in many ways like a reward to players, is something that as a player you're always excited to be on stream, and kind of like validating that or like making sure to highlight a player who is, you know, not going to beat Peppery Splash, is probably going to get destroyed by Peppery Splash, but how can we still make this player, you know, excited to show this off to their friends who don't play fighting games, you know, excited to like watch it back and feel like, oh, that Deadward guy was so mean, like why was he so mean to me, like I'm just trying to play a fighting game. Like I think that is a lot of where your kind of like fundamentals and your solutions to like kind of the harder problems that commentary presents kind of show themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you? Do you mind my own asking? How did you? I'm totally just giving you a question. Sorry, but like, from where did this experience? Where did you find the desire to give mid or entry level players this high level player experience? And I guess have you been competing yourself for very long? Have you had friends who like became top players and like gave you the window to cast your vision through or something?
Real quick before you answer that.
Yeah, Dub, not yet.
You're muted to. I believe you're muted to stream.
Oh, my
Chat,
bad.
so,
Oops.
yeah.
I'm bad.
It's all
I
good.
thought I was unmuted, but I wasn't. Yeah. So I have always been an attention whore. I've always loved having. I fucking hate you. Awful. Shut the fuck up. Get off my stream. I'm gonna ban you. Please ignore my 9 million messages. Oh my god, you did message me like 12 times. Okay. Yeah, so what MonkeyBizness said about wanting to make top players feel like beginner and intermediate players feel like a little bit more special than they probably usually feel in open tournament styles. I've always been an attention whore. I've always liked having the attention on me. And I did a lot of acting back in high school. I was a stage actor in high school. Actually very good at it. I won a lot of awards and was like often cast as the leads and stuff. So
Nice.
Not to brag. But when I got into fighting games in 2020, I got into them very early into the pandemic. And when I got into Exard, that was when I first started competing. And I was always like, I kind of got disappointed because there were a lot of beginner and intermediate tournaments around that time for Exard. There still are. There's like 5. But I would get disappointed. I would get disappointed when I didn't get on stream or when I didn't do as well as I wanted to on stream, or if I watched back the matches and they were like kind of mean to me. Not mean to me, but like they just weren't like impressed or anything. And then there was, if I remember correctly, only mids, which is the one that play Guilty Gear, like Pat the Flip and their crew does over on the West Coast. They had like an opening movie, like a promo that was like all of the players who enter regularly, because back then it was delay. It was like there were like 30 of us. All of the players that regularly entered in like their colors and their characters' colors and like highlighting them and stuff, and it was really cool. And that made me think, I kind of want to do this, but no one played Guilty Gear Exard in the South, so we had to enter other regions stuff. So then I started that, and my friend at the time wanted to run a southern regional online bracket for Exard, and this was still in delay, so we couldn't do entire NA brackets. And so I didn't want to do an open one, so I ended up doing a beginner one. And then through helping the beginners get better in the very early Blitz War era, which was what the TMN used to be called, through doing that, I realized how much I liked TOing and how much I liked helping the players feel special and hyping them up on stream. I love making this like kind of like good read they made feel like Mensa level, like that's a top uni player read right there. So I really like doing that, and it's really exciting for me. And it's something I wish had been done more when I was still a beginner in the games. So that's why. Yeah.
I think commentators, similarly to it's worth acknowledging, we see potential for ourselves to carve out our niche in the commentary headphones, and maybe similarly, a lot of us, some of us have been pretty fierce in one game or another, but we see our voices as a skill that is less likely to waver or fade within our skill in one particular game. And so it's kind of like a very sustainable way to make sure you can feel good about your involvement in the scene, provide something distinct, have a hone your skill and craft it. And similarly too, every local, I think, and at my own local in Buffalo now, I really like to see, and I try to make sure that people are getting first-time commentary opportunities at the local level. That it can be easier for them because they may already be familiar with their own players at the local and have some kind of frame of reference and not have to cast all of their judgment on the play style or the match based upon nothing, which can be a little bit intimidating. Sometimes you're at a major and like 6 players in a row you have just truly never heard of. And that's like okay, well, this Start GG says this are your 17th and 16th seed for the pools. Like, okay.
And they have the worst name imaginable.
Yeah, well, some production doesn't let those get through, thankfully. I'm sure maybe you haven't had to make last minute calls like that, but I know some producers that have had to, and have had to even on broadcasts that I've been on.
I have had to make it a couple times, but usually we let it fly. We're a little loose here, but yeah. Top 3 in the last uni tournament. Her name was Unisync Backshot. So what do I know?
Yeah. Well, anyway, I definitely related to your founding vision, which is that like everybody wants to be seen for a little bit, and people who go 0-2 and are just playing or just trying to learn the games, they may not feel so satisfied for having spent venue fee or whatever. So putting them front and center with something other than like a 0-2 bracket is great. And I think I'm worried about the 0-2 brackets, because where should the chain end? Like, how many 0-2 brackets should there be within the 0-2 bracket? And does this create a grand finals for last place eventually? Yeah. It's not a serious concern of mine, but I am just curious.
Yeah. That's why when we do 0-2 brackets, we run them Swiss style.
Oh, 0-2 Swiss. That literally is so smart. It maximizes experience and the time that people spend playing and the amount of matchups. That's wonderful.
Yeah, you know, like TNS couldn't do it because they just have way too many people to go 0-2, but we usually have like max like 10 people who go 0-2, so it's pretty easy. Yeah.
Logistically, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, so there was another question I wanted to ask. This one I think was one of the better ones I wrote up in 10 minutes when I woke up this morning.
Real.
Okay. Do you feel satisfied with your current commentary skill? And if so, do you still continue striving for improvement? What do you think the commentary community can do to continue pushing the skill level higher?
Oh, Monkey, you still there, or you want me to start?
Oh, yeah, I'm still here. Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
Actually.
I'll be right back. I have to go to the bathroom, but y'all can keep talking.
Okay.
All right. No, to answer your question, no. I am. I actually like kind of hate my commentary right now. It's very annoying, and I'm definitely trying to get better because that's the name of the game. There is always room to get better, and that's like kind of an essential part of the mindset, right? And that like you gotta be careful, and like you gotta make sure to give yourself credit where it's due, because if you don't, obviously that's unhealthy for a whole other set of different reasons. But yeah, it's, I don't know. So I got back from crossover, and I think I put on the Uni 5v5 that me and Lid commentated. I think I had to turn it off within like 10 minutes because I was just like, this is not listenable. I am not satisfied with. Yeah. It was like
That hurts.
Wasn't a great feeling.
That really hurts, man.
Yeah. So that's one of those things. It's like, all right, well, you know, that means it's time to do some work. So that you need to have maybe not that extreme of a moment like that, but I feel like it's important to be critical in a way that can get you motivated to like keep going, because it's you know, it's easy to get complacent with life in general. I get that. I do that with a lot of different aspects of my life. So like, yeah, I don't know.
Can I ask you some more questions about well,
Please, yeah.
the work you said you wanted to do some work to improve it. What do you think you want to do? Because I know in Grand Blue, you came onto the scene, and I'm not familiar with your work in French bread because I don't speak French bread. You all
That's
know
fair.
that.
Yeah, that's cool.
But in Grand Blue, you came on as a commentator and a competent player, but after a few months on commentary, you hit this grind when offline tournaments started coming back in the New England region and the NEC, for example. And I remember you you got 9th, I think it was, at NEC 2021 or something. You had like a great performance in Grand Blue.
Yeah,
And
it was I think it was 13th at CEO 2021. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's huge, right? So
Yeah.
do you think your commentary improved after you hit this personal grind and was striving for higher results within the brackets of your own game? And
I think
is
it was
that
the other
a
way
similar
around,
strategy?
actually.
Really?
Yeah, I think so like this is a real problem I have with watching fighting games is I fall asleep a lot, and that's because when I first started actually, yeah, weird,
Awesome.
right? Like
I
you can
fall
laugh at me
asleep
if
a
that's
lot.
okay. That's weird. And like I don't mean that like derogatory. I when I was like playing a lot of Dragon Ball when the game came out, I accidentally
game
conditioned
is
myself to, because I put it on when I go to bed
Me too.
and I
I
pass
did the
out
same
to it.
thing.
Yeah,
The rhythm
and
of Dragon Ball combos was so hypnotic for sleeping, and it's not
yes.
me saying the game is boring. I would wake up and study that game. I would stream while playing or watching or commentating that game. But if you put it on it at night, you start
pass
becoming more
out.
susceptible to sleep through your fighting game. Yeah.
And it was a real problem to the point where like I accidentally conditioned myself. Okay, Dragon Ball's on the screen. I like start to doze off if I'm not like finding ways to actively engage myself. And when I started doing that for other games like that, like I did that with commentary, I'm like, okay, if I have to talk about this, like that's gonna keep me dialed in. It's not
Yeah.
gonna let my like ADHD brain like wander away or pass out or do something foolish like that. So I started to pay more attention to the game. I started to learn more about the game, and since I was commentating, I think there was a point where I was commentating like 3 online brackets a week for Grand Blue or something silly like that. Yeah, I had to stop that. That wasn't helping.
Yeah.
But like I was just watching so much of this high level play that like I couldn't always execute it because you know I'd be like that. I do okay on a good day, but I'm not that great. But yeah, like you pick up stuff. Like I learned the situations well enough where I could like navigate some of that, and yeah, like finishing 13th at CEO felt really good. And I was
Yeah. Well, I
more pumped than
remember
anything because I
we did.
choked on stage.
Sorry.
No, go
We
ahead.
did a
go ahead.
block. We did a block that we had to do right after you didn't make top 8 at that very event we were doing the top
God,
8.
that's right.
What?
Oh,
Can you just remind me what event that was? It was somewhere.
that was ECT when
Yeah,
was
that's
when I
right.
got 9th. Yes,
Yeah, that's
that
right.
was it. I got myself knocked out, and then we had to commentate top 8 right after. Oh my god,
ECT 2021. Yeah, it was a blast.
Yeah. that was
But
crazy.
you almost were the reason. You almost were the production nightmare. We need a replacement. Lennox made losers top 8. Should he do the rest of his block if he loses his match? Who knows if he'll lose?
So I had another moment like that at CEO Taku this past year.
CEO
Actually,
Taku.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't have to
Nah.
share this one if you don't want to.
No, it's already out there. It's too late.
Oh, what happened? What happened?
I DQ'd myself from top 8 so I could commentate top 8.
Oh,
Which in
what game?
hindsight,
What game?
Grand Blue.
Oh
I
my
made top 8
God.
of Grand Blue. Yeah. The
Yeah.
last big Grand Blue tournament, by the way. It would because Wrath came out right after that.
I should have been there. Yeah.
It was
So
that was my
insane.
first talk. It was so fun. But in like PSA, don't do that. Production was not happy with me. So that
Is that when you? I just got back. Was that when you DQ'd to do top 8?
yeah,
Yeah.
like it was.
Because that's a
I
whole
really-
match that disappears, right?
Yeah, and it
It's a
screws
purpose
up like ad timing and stuff like that, which I didn't know. If I had known that ahead of time, like I probably wouldn't have done that.
Just
Yeah.
throw.
Just throw, yeah. Like I'm not out here trying to cause problems, but like that was the first top 8 like at like a big major I think I got for Grand Blue. So like that one meant a lot to me because I knew it was like the last one of this first grade game. So I'm like I really wanted that.
Just so you know, I don't think you should have thrown, and I ultimately, I think your whole audience has more respect for you for having proven you could make that top 8 at the end of that game's life, because that's one of those lasting like capstone type tournaments.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Doing well at a capstone is amazing for your whole rest of your life.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, the Taku medals for that year, that was the Final Fantasy VII Lost of Gems, and it's so sick.
I gotta get to
It's
Taku
so
one
cool.
year. This year is Gundam, right?
Yes.
Cool.
Zero Syndicate is he's just been on a cloud for however since that's been announced. Like,
Yeah,
my man is living it up. But oh god, I'm sorry, I forgot. Where were we? Were we talking about commentary
yeah.
skill? Right. Sorry. That's I've said my piece on that. I believe you're up or dead or whichever we want to go.
Yeah, I can talk about satisfaction and lack of it, or sometimes having it, or whatever. Let's see, I have some notes here too. So, I spoke earlier about how I always feel like I am and should start from zero with any new game, which makes every new release a very exciting experience to humble myself and become a beginner again. I think if I don't do that, and if I enter any game with some kind of ego or set of expectations based upon me being a seasoned long-time player, I set myself up to be somebody on Twitter complaining that the game isn't like the last one, which is the most common type of person that gets to propagate in our scene, even among like top players with huge audiences. And through their complaints and their objections that come from their bias or preference for their previous style that was successful, the large misconceptions are spread about the game possibly lacking nuance. I'm talking like Street Fighter 6 being accused of being dry brush the game. Yes, it's going to be the most common drive action, like for sure. You're going to see a lot of green characters in the game. However, it doesn't mean that all of neutral for the rest of the time is being skipped. And did you know that neutral is actually just always still being played, even just at a faster pace, and characters can have fast-forward advancing options in fighting games, and neutral doesn't die as a result of it? Especially
That's what I say about Dragon Ball neutral. Everyone's like, it's all neutral skips, and I'm like, Super Dash and Vanish are neutral. You are playing around that.
Yes, it's all a part of it. Thank you for the lick of nuance that is required. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
280 characters doesn't allow for that, and that somehow became the mode that we very actively engage in. I think if more people gathered like we four have right now and just talked about the games, everybody's understanding would be deeper and we could enjoy them more richly and more commonly. But even I do fear, I feel that now my task with commentary has become to always cast light on the rich interactions that game systems and very good intentional design that I see and I feel while I play the game. The two games that I play right now I really love, Street Fighter 6 and MK1, and it's not because I'm an apologist or like a corporate loyalist or on the Capcom Content Creators Program, But I see harmony in the drive system. I see beauty and life and death potential. I'm imagining interactions and matchups that I'm watching on dead internet theory fueled replay channels that just steal content from the CFN high rank players algorithm. I'm on that all day in a side tab or at work. Just I feel like I'm bearing witness to like amazing matches that seem to be kept secret from the rest of the world. If you look at the Twitter timeline, that's nothing but complaints about drive rush unreactability and people wanting it to be drive jog or drive walk or something. And this kind of duty that I feel is really empowering my commentary lately. I've become so resource focused, but not because I am trying to flex like knowledge or nerdiness or frame data, but because I want people to see like where the intentional design is and how much dumber the average Twitter player or top player on Twitter is than the designer that made the game we're playing. It's a very significant gap, and it's not. I don't say it outright, but I want my commentary to lend credit and credence to the quality of the game. So my tone is always positive, and any player who achieves something, I'm talking about the success of what they did and not the failure of the losing player. And what I mean by that is I'm not refusing to analyze what the losing player did that led to the loss, but in a moment that led to one player winning, I'm not going to say something like, oh, that's so unfortunate. I really try to avoid that. I think there's a lot of very common phrases that we've all picked up from one another, like listening. We're all listening as commentators, you know, like our language influences each other one way or another, but there's a couple things I've been trying to avoid to make sure too that my language is always pointing towards player choice and player responsibility. So I really like to use player names and not just a pronoun of any kind, or even say a character name instead. Just to kind of orient people's minds down a language pathology that always draws attention to them. I think in commentary right now there's a lot of like collective we in our language, and that kind of centers the audience. And yes, the players are putting on a show for us, and that's pretty cool. But I really, really like to make sure that people know which player is doing what and why it's cool. So I go as precise as possible, unless it's like inefficient. You know, I don't try to be inefficient with my language ever, but directed and precise. That's the main thing I've been trying to change over even the past 2 years. I've been working on that, I think. Maybe in response to the kind of online style shift with longer turns being taken. If I'm going to take a longer turn, I really want to finish it with a point that ties something I've observed with a player to something with how the game system is working. And also adapt at the time for how exciting the moment is at the same time. So yeah.
Concise language is definitely something that's been like something that I've recognized. Like I gotta step up on my game, you know what I'm saying? Like that's been a focus of mine over the past couple of years too. That's huge.
Yeah, right, because time is precious. You know, some of these games don't have long combos.
Yeah, for real.
Some people are playing Strive.
Right. I love Street Fighter 6, by the way, in particular, because some combos are so long and then some B&Bs are so short. The variety is amazing. So you can actually show your like individual ability to predict the game state as a commentator by knowing what combo is coming. You can time the length of your comment in advance, and if you like there's a lot of layers of optimization within commentary in accordance with the pace of the game, which is why everything I'm saying right now is so Street Fighter focused, because that's where mine's been at. But I had 3.5 years of Strive where I too was obsessed with begging people to pay attention to tension. Pay attention to tension. Think about it before it's even there. Think about how interesting the interactions may become. The threat of certain options being our seed is the threat of certain options discouraging other options and what that will get you in neutral. I mean, God, that game was fun too to think about. And yet the attitudes was like every character so frustrating. I hate every character that isn't mine, but I also hate the mirror. Like what, you know, these games are amazing and they're so fun. So here I am, like, you know, I don't think I'm alone in this quest, you know. I'm not alone. There are many commentators like me that are finding joy away, but I really don't want any of that Twitter language seeping into my commentary ever. I don't care about the tier list. I don't talk about character strength. I never talk about relative character strength unless it's actually so relevant in the matchup. So one player doing well with a low tier or upsetting somebody isn't going to make me make some kind of forced comment about, I thought this character was bad. Like, never me. And that's not a call out, but I think that's just a lot of like Twitterification of our language that I try to resist too. The question being how we're trying to improve. That's just where I'm at personally.
That makes sense too. Like, I don't know. That's because that's usually the easy thing to do, right? And if you back yourself into a corner or something, you're like, man, what's I gonna get out of this? Like, I've done that before. I'm not gonna lie. It's happened. Everybody's done that at some point, and that's
Me too.
that's one of the things that it's just overplayed at this point. Like, find a way to do this better. Be original about this. Be better, kind of. Don't be
know what I mean?
cliche. Yeah.
There are a lot of cliches that we can avoid for the better of all of us, I think.
All right, Deadward. I think you're up, homie.
Fantastic. I'm feeling I'm like the opposite of Lennox's broad strokes here right now. I feel kind of in the Deadward low era.
Oh hell yeah!
I think I'm
Hell yeah!
What is that picture you keep posting? What is where it's like the One Piece chapter?
the one piece. The name of this era is Deadward.
That shit is so funny. I fucking lose it every time you post that.
Well, that's great because I'm posting that a ton in the future. I feel like I've kind of hit like my intermediate plateau of commentary at this point, which is excellent because it means that I've kind of like lapped the layman. Like even when I get off a block and I'm like I was disappointed with what I did there, I'll still have people being like that was like you killed it, Deadward. Like that was fantastic. And so I think that's like super important to me that like my taste has kind of gone beyond like people's expectations. So even when I feel like I'm not batting 100, the audience still thinks that I'm like killing it and I'm on top of it. I feel
Deadward,
like...
can you shut up for a second? I have to remove the audio and add it back. Sorry. Okay, I'm adding it back. Give me a sec. I want audio. Okay, we're back. We're good.
I'm excited to get back into like current games again. Like my main games have been like Exart and CF, which are a little bit less competitive in the commentary environment, and also are two games that I've been playing for like a really long time. So Uni 2 being like more current, more developing, and also a game where I don't know all the normal names, I don't know all the special moves. Okay, we're still getting audio comments. Fuck, go ahead.
Okay, give me a sec. Okay, I think it'll be better
Do you
now.
think you can fix the stuff, or should we?
I think I fixed it. Did it get fixed?
All right, chat. Is it fixed?
They can't even reply. Oh yeah, it's fixed. Okay, I'm using an in beta feature of Streamlabs where it just captures one specific program. Audio, but it's in beta, so they haven't totally figured out everything yet, and sometimes you get the crunching sound, so there you go.
One thing that I've kind of figured out, like not knowing all the all the special moves and things like that, is that even when I'm doing like analysis and I'll be like, oh, we saw like the descending air button there get shielded, which is a guaranteed punish, and like things like that, where even if I'm not capturing everything, people like will still come after me and be like, Deadward, I can tell you're like a very analytical commentator with Uni. And I would be like, no, like I don't know like the nerd stuff about this game yet. I'm still learning it, but still like the cadence and just like especially figuring out that like people don't care that much about being like button specific. Like no one cares as JB. If you just say descending button, everybody gets it. Like we're all on the same page there, even people who haven't read like the Dust Loops for Uni. and like trying to bring that back to like Exart especially, where I'm just like a Dust Loops page 100% of the time. I could tell you like the frame data on like 50% of the moves in Exart and like every single input, like what their names are, things like that, and trying to like look back and be like, oh, like I was doing it wrong to be like the most nerdy person on the mic, and that I should kind of like take a peek as to like what my goal is, because the big audience is not going to be 100% Exart players. Like, how do I communicate kind of like the more complicated things? And I'm getting to it now, but like, because that's in tension with like my other goal, which I think that Exart is so beautiful and kind of like complicated that a lot of it the audience will just like miss when a huge thing happens. Like the biggest example I feel like is with Fu, because Fu does so much extra stuff. Like he'll like pull the screen to make the ball more difficult to deal with, and that's like such a fundamental and like bizarre thing that like it needs to be explained because it's so cool. Like
When
we
I see
need
that,
a nerd commentator to come on and be like, this should make you hype. Like pay attention to this because this is so smart and difficult and like interesting, and by explaining it, like you should be more invested in the match you're watching right now, because I feel like that's like the big kind of thing that commentators can bring to the match is like, at the end of the day, this is like a couple of nerds who traveled out, and the game's tough, but it's not going to be like this is not something that is going to change the world or anything like that. But while you're tuned in, I want you to feel like who wins Exart top 8 is like the most important thing. I want you to feel like so compelled to like cheer on or like get disappointed when something happens. And then also like when something small that was like difficult to do happens, you're like, that was like Deadward explained that to me. That was so sick. So I feel like that is a lot of like, my goal is switching less from being like, oh, I play all my games, I know frame data. I'm not like other commentators who like just commentate whatever.
Bro.
Yeah. Well, that's
not like other commentators.
A lot of what gets you into it is spite, though. I feel like everyone's kind of touched on that a little bit tonight. Like Dove was like, these commentators were so mean to me, and no one wanted to like validate that. Monkey was talking about Twitter. Lennox, I forget at this point, but it is like a big like you're centering yourself on the mic in a lot of ways. Like you need to have a reason that you think you should be there, and I feel like a lot of people, it's like, you know, the need is not being served, and I'm the one who needs to come in and fix that.
I love how you talk about that particular casting light on mastery, like illuminating something that is missable but nuanced, like something like camera manipulation, not letting somebody cycle the screen any further backwards so that they have to deal with projectile. That same thing obviously happens also in Street Fighter and other 2D games, and with a lot of knowledge and insight and experience, when you can feel yourself doing that, like match after match after match, you're like, yeah, it has to be me. It does have to be me. You are centering yourself in every respect, but when you find yourself choosing to cast light on those harder moments, what you are doing, and maybe forgetting that you're doing, is you're giving somebody in the future a reason to rewind and discover something incredible about how the game works. Or about how the characters work. And very often when we're live in the moment, we're only thinking about the live train. But I would never make my style any less analytical because I'm too afraid of the complicated but beautiful idea taking too long to explain. So I will tell you about that Fu camera movement, or making somebody fall on a fireball even from a neutral jump and not scrolling the screen forward. You know what I mean? Like, I'll take the time. I'll try and do it fast, but if somebody rewinds for that later on YouTube where they discover it, they're gonna love that. So I'm going for it. Somebody throw me the alley-oop and let me just throw it down, please.
No, I do have to say, About screen manipulation, this is not important whatsoever. Jacko has to use screen manipulation a lot, so I always really like when people talk about screen manipulation because she's my favorite character ever made. Too bad she sucks. But her whole goal is get the houses off stage. You cannot get back over there.
Yeah, it's horrible.
So it's horrible, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Monkey, with what you were saying, is that like there are parts of like there is a certain response of like Deadward that's too in the weeds. Like looking back at my own commentary, like that's not something that I really needed to explain and whatnot. And like the feeling to go like, well, I'm not gonna give that up. So like, how do I work around that? Like if I know that really long analysis of like minor stuff is something that I want to keep as part of my commentary style, it's like, okay, can I find places to deliver it somewhere else? Like, could I save that for in between rounds? Could I just deliver it faster? That's something I've really been doing, is it'll be like and we see the screen pull there. You saw Fu going to the end, and that's pulling the screen back, and now they're gonna get hit by the fireball, and now we're and then we like take it back down. So he's just like trying to fit in the information in the shortest time. And I feel like that is a lot of like what the style is I feel that there are like these commentary fundamentals, like things that you should be on top of, and I feel that that's kind of like the point that I've hit. Like I can do in between, like I can fill the time between matches. I can fill time if there's like an outage, like if there's an extra 5 minutes where they need to fix something, I can do that. Like I can just talk about the game. I can talk about the players who are there.
PS4, PS5, Sony controller desync, resync issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I can do play-by-play. I can do ad reads. Like I can close it out, and I can be exciting in the big moments. So I feel like a lot of my fundamentals are there, and a lot of it is like, how do I kind of orient myself in a way that can go even further than like the intermediate level that I'm at yet.
Yeah.
So like, how can I do everything bigger while also keeping the part that like got me into it?
It's some stuff is in the weeds, but you got to look through the weeds to find the seed. You know what I mean? The one conversational fighting game storytelling element you want to nurture. You have to look for it, and you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I stand by it. Go for the hard analysis and be strategic. Maybe don't do it at the end of a round, but rather between whole games where there's a longer guaranteed transition depending upon how your game works.
Oh yeah.
If it's like BB Tag, you do have like no time whatsoever between games. If it's Street Fighter 6, we have no time whatsoever. You have more time between a round in Street Fighter 6 than between a game, actually.
One thing that I've done recently. Oh yeah, because your rematch is so.
Yeah.
One thing that I've done recently is on productions where they have like a replay kind of cam for like the big moments at the end, is if I have something that'll be like too complicated or that like we're having an argument about, I'll just be like, oh, production, like take that, and now we're going to the or like here goes the knockdown, we're back to play-by-play. But like if you could take that for analysis later, production, I would love that.
That's in an ideal production world where like they actually do collect it. That's a very smart idea and strategy to give yourself tools to analyze later.
Yeah, but that's kind of my vibes as to where I'm at right now. Where, like I know I'm at a plateau, but I'm glad to be there, and the next steps of improvement are just going to be harder based on like diminishing returns. So that's kind of like the next step. One thing that is a challenge I feel like with commentary, it's same with fighting games as well, is getting like good critique can be difficult, especially for commentary, because it's like not even a single game. Like generally commentary blocks run like 2 hours plus. So like having someone whose opinion you trust, who is going to give you like good feedback, take like 2 hours to do something like that is a little ridiculous and difficult to do. And reviewing someone's reel is generally like you're reviewing clips that have been like specifically picked out and like highlight moments. Like most of a tournament broadcast is not going to be the big, exciting moments where like you're killing it. A lot
The
of it
only
is going to be transitions, things like
The only people who really know what the whole live experience of you is like is the producer that listens to the entire thing while it goes. And so, you know, they're listening to every second. They're the ones you really want to make sure you impress, even in the downtime, I guess.
Yeah, being professional definitely has its upside.
Oh yeah, we were talking about meaningful review. It's thanks to a little back and forth review that you and I did, Deadward, that my new reel that I used to submit to Combo Breaker with 1 day to spare, or maybe a 1 night to spare 2 days ago.
Yo, let's go.
Yeah, my new reel is under 4 minutes, which is such a difficult task. Oh my god.
Oh, you have to kill your darlings. I hate it.
Yeah, all of your old darlings. Clips that I wanted to use 2 or 3 years in a row because I think they were so adequately representative of the conversational, analytical style I like to go for. Some of those clips even were from like 3-way commentary teams or borderline mosh pits, but they all kind of had to go as the times changed. And as I've understood it, the producers have less and less time. Events are getting bigger and bigger once again, thankfully. Reels under 4 minutes now is the way to go, but I used to push 4:59 pretty hard, especially when you're going for 3 games. You know, I was like, how do I paint this picture of me showing that it's not just one game and I can change my pace in accordance with the game? That's such a rare skill, but I actually advise that people make multiple reels for each game individually in case they ever specifically want to target a 1-game event or something. That's something that I did early that was really helpful to me. I had MK11 reels that were separate from the Street Fighter reels, that were separate from the Guilty Gear reels, all of them. So eventually you kind of want to have something you send out in general because you're applying to do an event and do multiple games, maybe. But definitely keep your options maximized. It doesn't cost much. It really costs you. If you can edit a reel in the first place, you can edit another one.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost you much anything other than time, and more time spent listening to your own material is more you understand yourself and give yourself a path to improve. So positive feedback loop, I think, right there.
Smart, especially if you're gonna think about applying like tours and stuff like that too. Yeah, like they're not gonna care if you know how to commentate for other games. Like
when you're applying to do Arc World Tour, don't put MK11 in there.
yeah, exactly.
That where it's like, remember when I commentated BB Tag at Defend the North?
Yeah.
Bro, you still have BB Tag clips in your reel.
No, I don't.
You did last time I watched, but that was the one before.
That was before the killing your darlings train. That's when I still had like a Strive clip as my capstone, like big moment to like transition to the, you know, like resume card or whatever. I was like, man, I was just killing it at Super TSB commentating Crocs and Socks Gold Lewis. Like that was my only clip that made it on a high fight. So I was like, I have to include it. I have to keep it in there.
Yeah, that's a great clip. It's so. Sorry, I have to say this, but it's so easy to commentate Gold Lewis Dickinson.
And especially when being played by Crocs and Socks, like
that character was made for Crocs.
Yeah.
Like I know Crocs is the Slayer player, but that character was literally made for him.
No, they gotta give Gold Lewis BDCs.
If they gave Gold Lewis BDC, it might be the worst. It might be over for FGC Twitter.
I'm ready. White Wild Assault and BDC. Let this man go invincible forward or backwards.
Player does need White Wild Assault. Let's be real.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I wonder if they'll give it to him. That would be funny as hell. Okay. Well, one last question, and then my ramen is almost here for dinner, so I'll hop off. We'll get this wrapped up. What I was going to say is, what was your first big commentary job? Like, what do you remember as the first time you were like, I've done it. I've done what I wanted to do. And I also did, because that's the opening question for this conversation is, do you have any advice about the networking side of things? Because that's like half the job. And a lot of people just don't know how to navigate it. So that's what I wanted to talk about finally.
All right. Yeah, I'll hit this one first, just to go in reverse order of last time, which is that I guess I'll start with the first one. So, big event actually had so many different scales for me because my journey in the scene was very much locals oriented until the more contemporary moment we found ourselves in, starting around 2020, is when I started traveling to majors and commentating them at the same time. But for many years before that, since 2014, it was locals and regionals and stuff. And so to me, when in 2015, I was 18 years old in high school, a senior, going into what was going to be like a pre-college summer lucky, I had so much time to play MKX, just an unbelievable amount of time. And so I also, right out of the launch, was like pretty strong. I had already been in the scene like regularly for about a year and a half at that point, but in games that I had no chance in, like Street Fighter 4 and Tekken. But NRS was my thing, and so I was trying to breathe a lot of new life in, and I know this sounds unrelated, but when I got the chance to do Toryukin in May of 2015, first I qualified to play a known player from Chicago on the stream stage at Toryukin 2015. His name was GGA Tommy Waffles. He was playing Jax, and I lost with Kunjin game 1, went Jax game 2 for like a pseudo mirror, and tied it up. We played a super hype set. I lost, and I had brought salt from a nearby restaurant and chugged it on stream to make an impression on stream. I lost the mirror. My pride was damaged. It was an elimination. People used to stream losers matches randomly back then. It was crazy for pools. There were losers matches. And so the next block, they literally just didn't have a commentator, and the guy running the stream was like, "Yeah, man, your match was pretty good. Hop on." He trusted me because my play was decent. This Canadian guy doesn't know me yet. We would know each other for a long time after, and they're just like trusting me and loving my commentary that I do with long time ago. But Darth Armo was there. He hardly played MKX, but he was there because it was early, and he is a seasoned, like the closest thing you can get to a professional at the time, because this precedes all of the esports and Warner Brothers tours and everything. Mm-hmm. And we have an incredible time, and I'm pretty sure this block does only get saved in like 240p on a backup my computer or something. I don't really have access to it. I lost it. But that felt huge to me, and going back and watching the matches and seeing an active chat for a new exciting game, that was the first big event. And then we had a home tournament where I was kind of like the go-to, this is your commentator now, this guy is your MKX scene builder type. It was 2016. Rumble in the Tundra had come back in Buffalo, and for that, I thankfully choked and didn't make top 8, so I got to do the whole top 8. I was the expectation that I'm either in it or I commentated, and thankfully it was the latter. And that was a lot more relaxing. Didn't have to go through any like Lennox DQ situation, you know what I mean? Very, very preferable.
The shade!
Yeah. It's not shade, that's just the reality.
That's just the reality.
Yeah. And then years later, it really was NRS games that helped me get my foot in the door. But DTN 2019 was the first big commentary I did towards the beginning of the game's life with a much larger scene, with more eyes on me. And funnily enough, it was with Darth Arma as well for top 16 and top 8, which I thankfully was so easily granted access to commentate by going like 1 and 2 or something. It was awesome. I really struggled early in MK11. Anyway, DTN 2019 was the major I got to do before the pandemic, where a lot of people, I was really happy with the responses I was getting from a lot of people, and that gave me confidence even going into the pandemic era, where it was just going to be me and a Blue Yeti versus the world. You know, that's pretty much what it became. A Blue Yeti and a lot of DMs to people you hope read them, and usually, or very often, they did, and they respond pretty positively to people that want to lend their voice and help them out. So that ties into the networking question, I suppose. Please, anyone in the world, even if the feature is being removed from the websites we rely on, just send the first DM, ask the question. If you don't get a response, it's seriously no harm to you, and it's probably not personal because they probably just never saw it. Like, DM people on Twitter if they're an organizer and if it's open.
That's how I met Deadward. He DM'd me because I was like, I don't know any CF commentators. I need a CF commentator.
That's true. Yeah, and that was like perfect timing because that was right after I did my first CF block at ECT. I'm like, that's great.
If you can send somebody a reel, you have everything you need, basically. If you have a reel that you can send to demonstrate that you are indeed a commentator who's done it before, then you're probably good. But even if you're a first-timer, work with a group that's working lower scale, work with Training Mode Network, because that's literally the whole purpose of this organization, is to help beginners get their foot in the door at a commentator level or at a player level. And try and just find a group that you can scale to your level you're willing to commit, and keep your expectations realistic. You can't put too much of your self-worth on the line when you're networking. You don't want to let the numbers that are always on our screen trying to offend you at a personal or soulful level. Even if it's the amount of like messages that go unread. It doesn't even really need to be a majority. If you're commentating, you're a commentator. So try to commentate.
So my first big commentary job I got that like kind of made me feel like I leveled up, I guess, was Frosty Fausting was 2021, I think. Might have been 2022, I can't remember. That was the first event like outside of New England I had ever been hired for, so that was a really good feeling. And then later that year, I got to do my first top 8 at ECT. I think with MonkeyBizness actually. I think that was the Grand Blue year.
That's right. That's right. That was awesome. Yeah,
that was a lot of fun. I was super nervous going into that. That was crazy.
Actually, that reminds me too. CEO 2021 was so huge for a lot of the new gen of commentators meeting up.
Huge. You did Street Fighter Top 24, right?
Yeah, I got to do that with Jake Ryan, who I was meeting for the first time. So many of the like COVID generation commentators met at CEO 2021, and it was such a formative experience. It was a scary time to run an event, but I swear it was a miraculous and very needed event at the time. A total breath of fresh air. So I definitely wanted to cite that experience too. I've worked with them a lot since, but 2021 was special.
Yeah, that CEO especially. That was my first CEO. I had never been to a CEO before that, and that made me want to come back for like the next couple years after that. It was needed. I mean, you kind of said it perfectly right there. It was just very, very needed for everybody.
Right.
So talking about like networking and stuff like that, like Monkey already nailed it. Like just send the first message. Like Bunch always tells everybody who's like ever worked at Casa, like, what the hell does he say about like empty mouths don't get fed or something like that? That's not it, but
you have, if you want seconds, you got to call for it. Something like that.
Something
basically,
like that.
be the active communicator. He's a very good mentor figure in so many roles in the community too. Anyone who is running an online event organization has to bring people together. That's why the Casa branding is perfect, in my opinion.
Yeah,
by the way.
100%. Bunch does a great job with that, and I mean, like, the results kind of speak for themselves. Like,
at least with my experience in like TOing and production and stuff, they're not picky. They're not extremely picky, like in top 8s at a major, maybe. But, like, people, they have the pool of commentators they choose from. But if you just message someone and say, hey, here's my reel, I'm getting into this, if I want to commentate, there's a very real chance they might let you. Because, it's like, I need a commentator. People get busy, okay.
It's all about need and timing and making sure they know you're available and that you won't ditch or have to answer a phone call that you don't come back from or something in the middle of the event. Basically, that's all they want from you. The oath of reliability. So yeah, make sure you lend that too. Don't blow it off.
Reliability and professionalism go just a really long way. It's crazy. Yeah, I definitely agree with it.
I failed a little bit in this respect today because, I knew soundcheck was at 6:45 and I was looking at the clock and it was 6:47, and I could have just jumped in this channel and gotten it started. You know, I kind of failed on our oath to just put our foot in the door first. So that's
All
my
right,
mistake.
you weren't the last one here, so don't worry about that.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of it
Yeah.
is like real resume and is word of mouth. So definitely like you should be the friend of production. Like they should never have to look for you, like
Yeah.
message in the Discord or whatever. Because like if it's
Show
getting
your
brought up
blocker,
of like, oh, for CF do we want this guy or Deadward, and it's like, well, you know, Deadward, you know, he seems a little hungover sometimes, like doesn't show up that often, like all that. Like sounds like I'm not getting that job. So definitely, you know, the way you conduct yourself and like all that for in person is super important.
Yeah, don't get too drunk the night before you have a lot of 10 a.m. block.
To the players too. I remember Killer Kobe. Like, I saw him the day before
Bring up Kobe,
pools
let's go.
a couple Frosties ago. His first Frosty, his first major. I see him before pools. Bro is drunk as hell. Like hung over as hell. And I'm like, I thought you were gonna make top 8. And he was so
can't
mad at
lie.
me.
I think that rule applies especially so for the players over the commentators. Making your hands do things right is a lot harder than making your auditory vocal brain do things right, I think, when it comes to like substance interaction. But hey, don't experiment too aggressively in this end, kids, and anybody else who's listening.
All right. I think my big break is that I think I started applying to Frosties. It must have been 2020 then. Is I was just like, I would just keep getting put on the backup commentator list a bunch. And in 2022, I had a pools for Exard, a block for BB Tag, but then I was also top of the list for backup on Exard. And whoever was doing top 8 couldn't make it that year. So that was like, you know, started in 2019, 2022, missed the pandemic. Like, I'm doing top 8 at a major for like the game that I am the most focused in. So that's like, you know, with most things where you're applying and whatnot, you should always send it because so much of it is just like being at the right place at the right time. Luck is a huge factor
Yeah.
to pretty much anyone who is succeeding in commentary right now. So many commentators that you know have been like launched on someone not being able to make an event, whatnot, and especially that's one of the reasons I think Monkey was talking about, like, just send people DMs for net play tournaments, because net play tournaments always need more commentators,
Always.
especially if they're on the weekdays. Like, people are gonna be busy after
I
work.
want to do it.
Yeah. So I mean, like, that's your opportunity a lot, I'd say. I think I haven't been focusing on like deliberately networking as much as I'd like. I'm kind of regret that Jatsu wasn't able to make this, because I feel like he is one of the, like, if with that like 3-prong thing, if networking was one of those, Jatsu would be like a 5.
TNS is definitely a network.
Oh
Yeah, for sure.
He is involved in that network.
J2,
yeah.
yeah.
And I feel like a lot of it is just like putting your face to your name as often as you can at like big tournaments. Like, make sure to say hi to your friends, say hi to your production, say hi to your TOs. Make sure that they know that you're in the business, you're still working, all that good stuff. And then be aware. I have a little anecdote from CEO Otaku this year where I was really focusing on networking, and I had I was courageous. It was induced perhaps, but I was just saying hi to pretty much everyone that I knew there. And I get to Elven Shadow, and I don't think I'd formally like introduced myself to Elven Shadow before, never said hi. So I'm like, hello, Elven Shadow. Like, nice to meet you. I'm Deadward. And Elven Shadow just looks at me and says, like, I know who you are.
Oh, yeah.
Bro.
I'm like, no!
Dude, that happened to me with Damascus at ECT, because I hop on Wanted every once in a while for Melty Blood. And like
Yeah.
he was eating, but I'm like, man, I gotta say something. I don't want to bug him right now. Just hit him with the like, hey, thanks for running wanted. I'm Lennox, blah blah blah. And he just kind of giggles at me. He's like, dude, I know who you are. I'm not gonna get used to that. That's weird.
Some
You
people
never have to
their
do
eyes
that
up,
as a
man.
TO. Everyone knows who you are and just wants to say hi to you.
That's true.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, I wanted to say this used to be more necessary just when we were wearing masks at tournaments. It was so difficult to have the courage to really properly identify somebody.
Yeah, I
was
got
literally-
you.
I was like an aggressive self-introducer to the extent of embarrassment as well, but I think it has gotten a little bit easier as people's faces have emerged once again.
Definitely,
Uh,
definitely.
Just an observation, and no political orientation in that comment whatsoever.
Slashback is still requiring masks. I was impressed by that.
I see.
I just need to start masking when I go to events because I've got sick like the past 3 I've went to, and I'm done with this. It's
It doesn't make a good impression. Speaking of networking, you got to be careful not to be sick around people.
True.
yes, exactly.
Oh, that
It's-
MonkeyBizness guy gave me the flu.
Yeah, not good.
Like,
Gave me the
not a
monkey
good thing to
flu?
hear. Yeah.
Oh,
No, it's the
aggressive.
business blue.
I got COVID at this year's Frosty, and I had gone not getting COVID the entire pandemic. I was pretty pissed off,
Oh no.
I have.
and I masked the entire time, so most of it, not the entire time. But.
Post the dove picture with Deadward.
That picture is so
Nice.
stupid, dude. You were so adamant that night.
I was just tired, to be honest. I did so much commentary that day.
Yeah.
Also, no, everyone kept kicking me off setups. I was so annoyed. Like, there would be like 8 setups around, and someone would come up directly to mine and be like, "Oh, I got next," and I would, because I was so tired, it would just be like, "Go ask someone else. I don't want to go look for another setup again." How dare you?
They probably wanted to play with you, Deadward, but
Oh, that's. I should have won. I should have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
sure.
is on you for not winning.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the lesson here, I think.
But definitely, like, with networking, there's a level, I feel as people who are like me, who are maybe a little bit more introverted, there's a level of, like, I shouldn't, like, talk, like, I'm using these people. I'm only talking to them because I want them to give me commentary jobs. And there's a level of, like, you can be like, just try and make friends with people. Like, you don't
Yeah.
think about it in a transactional way. And at the end of the day, if it is transactional, it'll be good for you. And like
It'll be
TOs
good for them,
always
too.
need more commentators, and commentators always need more gigs. Like it's symbiotic. Don't like beat yourself up or like overthink things like that. Networking is good for you for like a.
And also, don't think that the game is beatable because you actually.
Oh
have to
yes,
keep
that's
doing
the
it.
other. Like
You
I'm so
actually
good,
have
I
to
don't
keep
need
it
to.
up.
No. It's not.
Yeah, no, that doesn't happen. In fact, you can get, in my case, the biggest. You can get the biggest event that you ever wanted. You can accomplish a goal, and then if you don't keep it up, if you think you graduated doing online, underestimate the amount of people that are applying ahead of you who are working harder. You may not get that same event the next year, and you can't take that personally. You can't lash out publicly or anything. You just have to take everything at a very internal and de-emotionalized level and try and solve problems that you anticipate existing. It takes some reflection sometimes. I guess this is our transition to talking about disappointment after we talk about our first big gigs and success and whatnot. But yeah, disappointment's going to be a huge part of the process too, and it may not always be being ignored, it may also be being declined. And even when you are declined, it can be for so many reasons. It can be because of the order of the applications and the presumptions that may be involved with timeliness or something. Maybe there are just too many in your game of choice, which is probably the most common single reason that people get rejected, right? There's just a lot of competition in the field. Usually the most exciting or the greatest thriving game is the one that most people are trying to commentate together. So you remember Strive was a bloodbath at launch for commentators, of course.
Yeah.
And we can't hate each other over it, but like you can work yourself into a big fury and be upset hearing something that you could be watching and see something that gets missed at an event that you didn't get. And how are you going to take it? Are you going to start disliking your very peers that are trying to do the same thing that you're trying to do for the same pure reasons of casting light on incredible fighting game stories and interactions and high-level matches that play out? Like, if you fall down that like jealousy, negative feedback loop, there will be no hope for you wanting to do online, because you won't be able to survive in the space of sitting in your room for 5 hours at a time wondering if anybody's caring. You know what I mean? Like, I'm getting pretty personal here, but that's
You're right though, 100%.
yeah, like you will have existential moments. There will be dead stream chats sometimes for an online event, because it's 4.5 hours. Long time passes, traffic ebbs and flows, but you can't let it be hurting you. Otherwise, your product will suffer too. So. Yeah, that's my MonkeyBizness take on rejection and the wonderful lessons it offers and the challenges and opportunities it presents.
Yeah, learning to take that well is essential. I don't know. I don't really have anything new to add here. I'm pretty on board with what you said, to be perfectly honest.
You gotta find the MonkeyBizness mindset, because there will never be enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You could get every top 8 and be like, they should have given me this block as well.
Yeah.
I should have had that block. Like there will never, you'll never be sated in the amount of blocks you get for an event. So
the only way that will be guaranteed to come to you in the maximum amount that it can come is if you are very, very actively producing the highest quality product that you can for many different events, and you are always on your A game. Pretty hard. But,
and you're lucky. And don't forget, like you said, like it could be the order of the applicants. It could be someone having a like you never know what's going to be the
your
big
style is just oversaturated in the game of choice or something. Like things that don't reflect poorly on your quality or anything. But I don't know. I mean, sure, like regionality will play into it too. Like if some TO just like hasn't heard of you, it's going to be a much smaller chance that you get a response or a positive response in the first place. But that's part of the networking, I take a rejection as an opportunity to work on the product and the networking, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like it's where a lot of people start with or are able to start with regional stuff, right? Like, yeah. I'm pretty confident with my ability to get hired out of the East Coast, but like Midwest, not nearly as much. And that just means there's more work to do. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't take that personally. That's it's kind of.
They don't know me in the South. They don't know.
Yeah, yeah, that happens. It's like, all right, well, I got some work down there to do. It's kind of like what Deadward said earlier about like talking about players play in a positive light, like focusing on like the good things, and you can acknowledge the mistakes, but like don't make a big deal out of them. Like I think those two concepts are just good to have in general.
Yeah, right. Nobody wants to see a negative like especially a producer at an event they don't want to see a negative spiral on your Twitter profile that they're probably actually looking at, even if you didn't gain a follow after a rejection. Especially not like a named one. Like that is the most instantaneous, not even looking at yours next year ever.
Yeah.
Any negative opinion on commentary assignments should only ever be in the DMs of a trusted confidant.
All I'm saying is that any negative opinion you have about anything regarding competition in the FGC should be in the DMs. If you lost your pools because the guy next to you smelled really bad and you didn't make it out of pools winner's side, the DMs, bro. That's why they exist.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you
to wind down?
Yeah, thank you so much, all three of you. This was a great time, and I really hope it can help some commentators trying to get into the business.
Thanks for having us. It's a lot of fun.
If you have any more specific questions, like my DMs are open. Especially with like real editing, I think I like talking about that a lot. But anything else of like, just like, where do I start? Like, how did you do it? Anything like that, feel free to reach out.
Oh, hot on the mic Discord too. I need to shut that out because I got a million opportunities there. Starting out, if you want to do commentary, it's a great spot to find just random online stuff going on that you can practice in. Highly recommend.
Thank you for reminding me of that. I'm in that, and I have to pull it back up to the top.
Yeah,
that's a great Discord. I linked that in my TO document. Like, if you can't find anyone else, go here. We had Acoustics commentate a DBFZ tournament, like a beginner and intermediate 7-person DBFZ tournament.
I saw him drop into the TMN chat. I'm like, Dove, you're crazy.
I just asked it hot on mic, and he was like, yeah, sure.
That is so awesome.
Okay, well, thank you, all three of you. I had a great time, and I hope we can have you back on sometime soon. Hopefully with Jesu this time. Yeah. I always want to talk about it. Maybe we could do like a workshop where we go through like matches and talk about the thought process when what you're doing from your head to your mouth and stuff. That would be really fun.
Yeah, that reminds me of something I tried a long time ago, where everybody commentates the same round, and I try to see the differences in choices.
That would be awesome. That's a great idea.
I think I may still have my application for that, like, unlisted on.
I'm so sorry that I never figured out how exactly to articulate, like, the task there, where, like, because people are pre-recording it, some people see the round in advance, some are doing it live, all the submissions are different quality, you know. I ran into a couple obstacles, but you know I take my articulation very seriously, so I appreciate your patience with me there.
There it is, 5 views. Back when I was trying to be a Grand Blue commentator.
Bro, no way.
Yeah, no, it didn't.
We were involved. Yeah, thanks everybody for listening. And Dove, I really appreciate the opportunity. Deadward and Lennox, I love getting to talk with you guys in a conversational capacity. This is the kind of conversations that we don't get to have enough. When we're just paired up together, sure, we enjoy killing it and, you know, embellishing what we see, but I think we need more of this in more forms of media too. The commentator discourse. We can develop a stronger community, and I think all work towards improvement together in a more productive way. I don't see enough conversations about either what people like in commentary, what they are trying to do in their own, and I think we finally have hit something here. So thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome. I'm glad we got to do this. Like I said, it's not just, I mean, obviously we run a lot of tournaments, so it's mostly the competition, playing the game aspect of it, but I do want to help, like, anyone, because, you know, as a member of production, I think production is just as important as competing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely, we got to find a few West Coast, South, Midwest commentators. We did realize pretty early
it
that
is mostly East Coast, yeah.
We're all an Amtrak away from each other.
More representation.
Who should I raid? I'm between the Persona Fight Club monthly and T5 streaming beating up vegan eats
please
meat.
Do Persona Fight Club, please.
Okay, I'll do Persona Fight Club.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for coming today. I hope you have a great evening, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
See ya. Thanks.
Peace out.